Hello, welcome to House and Home Chat, Real Estate Real Talk with Dena and Chris. I'm Chris Breitenbach.
And I'm Dena Mathis. Welcome to our program. We are continuing our conversation today about new construction. And we're not here to promote one specific builder, but rather to give our listeners some insight into the new construction process. And we're exploring both track builders and full-on custom builder experiences. So today we're chatting amongst ourselves, right?
Yes.
Your realtor experts bringing you real estate, real talk, new construction facts.
Yeah, in our many, many
Years
years as realtors, we've worked with a number of different builders, and now is as great a time as any to explore this if you're considering a move. With the low inventory,
Right.
there's been limited choices
There sure
for
has.
resale homes. And but there's a lot of new construction going on out there and a
Mhm.
lot of opportunities. So we think it's really important that this needs to be part of our conversation.
Exactly. And it's so confusing. So we're going to try to break things down for you today. And we'll start by talking about those track builders.
Yeah.
Some examples are Fisher, Dries, MI, Miranda Homes, Ryan, just to name a few, but there are obviously so many, many more that we've worked with over the years. Chris, what is something that our listeners can expect as far as working with these types of
Yeah.
builders?
So just as a generalization, right, when we think of a Dries, we say Dries neighborhood, right? And it's because Dries has already purchased the property, they've developed it, they've stationed out lots, and so the lots are already there. There's not a lot of choices or decisions when it comes to it. And the same thing with your floor plans. So you go into a
Exactly.
community and they're going to say, these are the floor plans that we build in this community. You say, I want a ranch, or I want a first floor master. Great, here are your options to do that. And these houses, I use a ranch as an example because they need a little bit bigger footprint. They fit on these lots.
Right.
And so it really helps to me with that decision making.
Yeah.
But it becomes very clear, very concise. Oftentimes there's a model home
Yeah.
already there that you can take a walk through. Just
Right.
kind of gives you a feel for the area and the neighborhood. And oftentimes it's a little bit shorter time frame too. And it's because they've got the infrastructure already in place and people already working on site in that area.
Exactly. And so there are, I mean, you can see those as advantages or disadvantages in some cases. And it all really just depends on what you're looking for as a buyer. If you're into making decisions but want to limit those
Yes.
decisions, then this is a great option for you. If you're really attracted to a particular new land site community, this is a great option for you. If you have to stay within a specific school district, right, and you're looking for a certain look, then those are really perfect options.
I'm just thinking about it. Our first house we bought or built was through Ryland Homes, and it was easiest process ever, and good because we were in our early 20s. But we literally went in, we picked our floor plan and our options, even where we could do plan A, B, or C.
Right.
And so, for me, as much as I love details, those aren't the type of details that I want to do for me.
Yeah.
Maybe you, but
yeah,
not for
exactly. And that's a great point. It just depends on how much involvement you want and how much decision-making power do you want. So that's where it's important to sit down with your trusted realtor advisors, talk through what it is that fulfills your greatest needs, and we'll help you get there.
Yeah, because I'm thinking of Fisher last week or last episode. The floor plans for those condos are set, but they have a lot of options and you can customize even moving walls. And so, it is going to be different builder to builder, even for this type of builder.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And speaking of realtors, you might be wondering why use an agent when I can walk into a model and use the builder rep there. They're knowledgeable. They know about the property and the site itself. Why use a realtor? And so there are lots of options, lots of reasons why, right?
Yeah, for example.
Yeah.
I think contracts, to me, contracts are so important in
Mhm.
understanding what you're doing and what you're buying. And so, we're used to both our contracts and different builder contracts. And so helping point out things that you should be aware of. And one of them is inspections, right?
Right.
Are they, most builders, actually all builders are going to allow you to have inspections, but you know what? If you don't have it in the contract from day one, that may or may not happen.
Right.
Because it's what's
and your
written.
builder rep isn't necessarily going to bring that up as an option either. Not that they don't want you to have an inspection. They,
But they're
it's
not
fine,
going to help you through
but
it.
they're not going to necessarily help you through it.
They're not going to say, hey, we're at the point of pre-drywall.
Yeah.
And if
do you want to
your-
have an inspection now? Those aren't things that your builder rep is necessarily going to put out there.
Mhm.
And there are, with the new construction, there are different times that you do the inspections
Mhm.
than with a resale, of
Mhm.
course.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of different reasons.
Yeah. And other things like
Mhm.
radon, is that part of
Mhm.
the contract? Is there a non-refundable down payment?
Right.
And
Good to know.
good
upfront.
to know up front who pays for what,
Right.
right? There are certain things that a seller pays for in a resale transaction that's written into our contract. And oftentimes I find in new construction that the buyer is going to be responsible. So you may or may not be able to change those things, but we want you to be aware.
Yeah,
What are you getting into?
You should have those expectations up front,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And then, heading into the final walkthrough,
Oh,
what
yeah.
are the expectations?
One of my favorites.
Well, yeah, what are the expectations there? Are there things that are incomplete? Are
Mhm.
there things that need to be changed? Are there things that are not correct?
Mhm.
And at what process do you allow for the closing to happen before those things are done?
Right.
So it's going to
Right.
be different in different instances, isn't it?
And I've even had with new construction where we've had the builder escrow money
Mm.
aside, and maybe that's for landscape that didn't get done, or
Right.
things, weather, were influenced by weather, but we've escrowed money
Mhm.
to make sure that a part of the proceeds didn't hit the builder until there were things that were completed.
That's a good point. That's
Mhm.
a really good point. And the bottom line is that we, as your agent, represent you, the
Mhm.
buyers, right? The builder reps who are great partners with us. We've had a
Mhm.
lot of them on our program over the years. They're great partners, but they represent the builder, and we represent you, the buyer. And it's often likened to hiring an attorney. You wouldn't go into court representing yourself
No.
in most instances, right? I wouldn't think so. So it is best to have a professional licensed agent representing you and representing your best
Mhm.
interests.
And as realtors, we represent you as our buyer specifically, but you have to remember, in that builder's rep's eyes, we also have other people that we're working with. And so if they work well with us, so if they help us help you, they know that we're going to keep them in mind and speak highly of them with our other clients. And just even in general, working well with them because we have relationships
Yeah,
with them.
yeah, that's a really good point.
We see them inside and outside the actual new construction world.
Exactly. We've been doing this a long time, many, many, many years.
Many,
we said.
many.
Many, many years. We've established relationships with a lot of these builder reps, and we do represent many buyers where you are just one buyer. So we do have that ability to, get through the weeds, I think sometimes, right? A little bit more easily than the average buyer does. And, you like to think that the process is going to be a smooth, easy
Mhm.
one. And we're here to try to help you get through it as smoothly as possible. But we're also ready to jump in if things get, tough.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So hopefully you've gotten just a little nugget of this type of builder, what to look for, kind of what they're all about. There's also, and we're just going kind of to two extremes, custom builders.
Right.
And so let's talk about how those differ a little bit.
Yeah, there's a lot of differences, right? So it is, and it can be a big leap, and it can be very confusing, and it differs quite a bit. But, I think the biggest difference there is that you are actually architecturally designing your home, rather than making or picking from some pre-selected model
Mhm.
homes and making those changes that fit your lifestyle. So, and often times it's, you may be hiring a architect, or sometimes the architect is hired by the
Mhm.
builder and included in the process. But it really just depends from one builder to the other, and you are really in it from, the ground up, right?
Right, right. And so probably one of my big things is a time planning,
Mhm.
right? If you are going with a tract builder, you're talking about lots that are already developed, homes that are ready to go. And so that's a much shorter process than oftentimes dealing with a true custom builder, where maybe they're looking at your lot and it still needs access to water or electric, or does it need a septic system? How is that all going to work? Along with, if you are starting from scratch with architecture, that's going to take plenty of time.
Right, right.
And so I've had some recently tell me a year to a year and a half out
Yeah,
minimum.
I would say minimum a year. I mean, I would say more than a year. A lot
Yeah.
of the times is what you're looking at as far as the custom build option, because you may not, we're starting and we're having this conversation. You may not have a lot yet.
Right.
So we've got to look for a lot, and is that area specific, or do you want a particular type of lot? I know you had clients who were looking for a wooded lot,
Mhm.
so really going through the process of finding that lot is a whole, just in and of itself, its own piece, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I think part of the big part is we want to start that conversation with what is important to you, right? Is it time frame? Is it lot? Is it location? Is it home characteristics?
Exactly. So starting off and determining what is the most important factor to you helps us guide you in those right, directions. And just recently, I closed on a new construction
Mhm.
home, and we just signed, with another client on
Yeah.
another
Yeah.
new construction home. And it's interesting because they're both downsizers, but they really had different expectations and different needs. So, if from one client to the next, it's always different, and it's a lot of fun, but it can be very different and vary across the board. For these clients, it happened to be location. So,
Right.
so
Right.
yeah, that's what drove our process, was the location in this instance. But again, like we said, it might be architectural design in another instance.
Absolutely. And so part of what we like to do is it's a complicated process. Getting a new home in general, but the building process is complicated. And through our conversations with you and asking those pinpointed questions, we might find that new construction isn't the right fit. I had two recently. One that we were able to buy a market home, so a brand new home with a custom builder. And so we were able to tweak a couple things. I know
So they got brand new, but they didn't have to start from the ground up.
from the ground up,
Yeah.
and they're thrilled. And then my other client would have loved new construction, but they have a little baby, and once they were hearing a year and a half out, they really did not want to be in temporary housing for a year and a half with a baby.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because sometimes we start in new construction and end up in a completely different place, right? We may end up in a resale home, or vice versa. You may start with your realtor looking at homes, and then decide, wow, you know what? We really are interested in the new build process.
Which is going to lead me to another point.
Another reason.
We talked about networking with builder reps, right? So we try to have our pulse on who are the right people to ask the right questions to, and what is coming new.
Exactly. And you were just telling me about a new community that you were excited about.
I am so excited. So Ryan Homes has a new community. It's going to be a series of a set of condos, actually in Deer Park. So,
which is interesting and exciting in and of itself, because there's nothing new in Deer Park, right?
Correct. But It's within a mile of Kenwood Town Center.
That's awesome.
The price range that they're telling me is about 300,000 right now.
So maybe
And
around 4.
so around 4, but I've got this group of upcoming buyers. They're probably a year out.
Yeah.
And, they're all renting. They all are thinking we want to rent one more year, but they all think, oh my gosh, we should probably own something after that. They don't necessarily want to go to Hyde Park in Oakley and spend 600,000.
Price point is quite different.
Yeah,
Mhm.
price point is different, and they, working a little further north, they consider that to be a little more central.
Yeah, that gets them totally in a central Cincinnati suburb.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so I am thrilled. I've already introduced it to a couple of them, and I'm just thrilled that
That's
we've
so
got those
cool.
opportunities.
Yes.
But it also makes me think of, when we were at Hummerama, we were talking with Duncan from Drees.
Yes.
And Duncan was talking about and we've seen this where they buy like pockets.
Yeah, like little
And
clusters of
a cluster,
Mhm.
and they have a cluster of homes. And last time when we were at the Fisher, they bought just this parcel in Loveland, and were able
The
to
overlook.
develop a community.
Blossom Hill. Yes.
And so, keeping in contact with people, we're up on that, and helping again to brainstorm, because otherwise I think it's hard to do research on new construction.
I agree. And just getting to know you, what your needs are, can spark conversation, and we're happy to share with you what we hear
Right.
is going on within our community. So that is, exciting, a lot of exciting things, and lots of reasons to call your local real estate experts. So our small business shout out this week goes to Dena and Chris.
Yay, us.
And all of our new construction partners in the greater Cincinnati market.
Absolutely. So if the time is right for you to start thinking about an upcoming move, contact us at Dena and Chris Real Talk at gmail.com, or just reach out to us via phone.
Mhm.
We'd love to just have a conversation with
Right.
you.
Let's start the
And,
conversation.
Actually, I say have a conversation, but we'd love to start listening for you.
Exactly. That's a great point. Well, that's all for today. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on our program.
Bye.